Well, this video is going to be depressing. This video is not good for people with anxiety. If you have anxiety, probably should not watch this. But then again, the video is already almost over, so it's a bit late. Hey guys, alright, I'm actually really excited for this. Neil Halloran has made a new video. I haven't watched it yet. I skipped the little intro in which he's talking about, like, I guess what he's been up to or something and who he's partnered with for this video. If you want to check that out, go ahead, and obviously link in the description to the original video is always down below in my description box thing. But this is a simulation of a nuclear blast in a major city. Now this isn't, it may not seem like a history video, but it is, in the sense that we have the before and after pictures of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We have the before and after pictures of Tokyo after, pre-firebombing and then post-firebombing, in which those firebombs kind of did the same because of how relentless the Allied American firebombings were. Tokyo kind of looks like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's just that people could live in Tokyo, like, after the war. People really couldn't live in Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the war. But we've seen those images, yet it doesn't really give us, and we know of the numbers lost. However, I think there's something very powerful and very informative, like what we saw with Neil Halloran's video, The Fallen of World War II, in which that displays and shows us like the actual numbers as little mini figure people, and that I feel like helps put it better into scale. And so I feel like this video will also help put into scale the deadly power that is behind nuclear weapons. And I'm going to also guess that we will be seeing not just one nuke. We're going to be seeing the explosive power of the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And then we might even see up to the Tsar Bomba, which is the deadliest atomic bomb, or, well, hydrogen bomb. Was it a hydrogen? I think it was a hydrogen. Ever detonated, ever tested. And by the way, not to scare anyone, but we probably have way deadlier bombs than the Tsar Bomba at this point. Science is always learning new ways to kill each other, so, that exists. It just hasn't been tested. Anyways, aside from that dark thought, let's go ahead and watch the video and see exactly what a nuclear blast would look like in a major city. Is this Manhattan?
Imagine for a moment the unimaginable happened.
Or is this just a base city? Okay, 4 million people.
A major city is hit by a nuclear weapon.
How big is Chicago? I don't think it's 4. I think Chicago's like 2 to 3 million. Can't remember.
Now, no number could account for all the devastation that would result. But we can put a number on the deaths. At least we can make an educated guess based on our understanding of what nuclear blasts do to city structures and people. We'll assume the bomb is detonated in the air to maximize the radius of impact, as was done in Japan in 1945.
Oh.
But here we'll use an 800 kiloton warhead, a relatively large bomb in today's arsenals, and 100 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
Oh.
Upon detonation...
Wait. So they don't explode when they land? They explode in the air? Whew. I did not know that.
A fireball as hot as the sun would expand to a radius of 800 meters. Those near the blast would be vaporized. And within a 2-kilometer radius, all buildings would likely be destroyed. And we'll assume that virtually no one survives inside this area.
I feel like you couldn't survive.
Which, based on population density, would start the death tally at 120,000 people.
Well, this video is going to be depressing. Oh man.
As you move further away from ground zero, estimating deaths becomes more complicated. From as far away as 11 kilometers, the radiant heat from the blast would be strong enough to cause third-degree burns on exposed skin.
Oh, no. Oh. Cover up,
And as
boys.
you get closer to the blast, the heat becomes so intense that clothing, even skin, would ignite into flames.
What?
That said, most people in the city would be indoors or otherwise sheltered from direct exposure.
Okay.
But the very structures that offered this protection would then become a cause of injury, as debris would rip through buildings and rain down on city streets. As a rough estimate, we can assume that half the people between 2 and 11 kilometers from the blast are killed.
Jesus
From
Christ.
burns, debris, smoke, collapsed buildings, and radiation sickness.
That's pretty much the whole fucking city.
Which translates roughly into an additional 500,000 people. Many of these deaths will occur days, even weeks after the attack. Radiation sickness takes about a week to cause death. And much of the dust and ash produced from the explosion will be dangerously radioactive, especially if it originated near ground zero. And the distance the particles travel will depend on the wind and other factors. Now, since this simulation is of an airburst attack, it will produce significantly less radioactive fallout than ground attacks targeting missile silos or bunkers. So we'll go with a relatively small number of deaths outside the 11-kilometer
Relatively small? Ooh.
range.
Man. Fuck.
If it were a surface blast, the fallout deaths could surpass all other deaths combined, but it's a very difficult number to predict.
Jesus
In
Christ.
theory, radiation deaths can be reduced if people can avoid exposure to the fallout, especially during the critical first few days.
When they're in their bunkers?
Fallout shelters were common during the Cold War, but people
you had
rarely
money.
build shelters today. And schools no longer practice nuclear war drills. We generally talk less about surviving a nuclear attack. And in a way, it's good that we're less afraid of the bomb now that the Cold War is over. When nations are less on edge, the risk of accidents is arguably reduced.
True. Great point.
But nuclear weapons remain one of the great threats to humanity. And today, we're entering a new era in nuclear weapon history.
What's also sad though about nuclear weapons is, yeah, it can pretty much ensure the destruction of humanity. But what they've also done is that they've pretty much ensured a relative peace throughout the world. And I think that's probably the saddest thing about nukes, that we have to have such a deadly weapon to pretty much prevent world powers from sending millions of people to their deaths in a pointless war.
Long-standing nuclear arms treaties are being reassessed, and countries big and small face the prospect of new arms races. In part because technology is emerging that may give one side a considerable strategic advantage, notably hypersonic weapons.
The fuck is that?
Current nuclear missiles travel around the Earth at high altitudes, making them visible by radar earlier in their flight. Now, some hypersonic vehicles travel close to the Earth, through the atmosphere, at least 5 times the speed of sound, giving defending countries far less time to react. And remember that some of the most perilous moments during the Cold War occurred when countries maneuvered to reduce their opponent's reaction time.
Yeah,
And
oh my
the
god.
less time countries have to react, the more likely an accident will occur, or a rash judgment.
This video is not good for people with anxiety. If you have anxiety, probably should not watch this. But then again, the video is already almost over, so it's a bit late.
And then you have smaller nukes that blur the line between conventional and nuclear weapons, providing a more slippery path to nuclear escalation. Now, for ordinary citizens, nuclear weapon policy may seem like a complex, even intimidating topic. But leaders often consider public perceptions when making policy. In many countries, voter opinion is an important factor. Whether you believe nuclear weapons have made the world safer or more dangerous, both sides generally agree that the bomb brings an unparalleled risk, and that there are things we can do to reduce the risk, like minimize.
I feel like so there's an argument that I have against fewer countries getting the bomb. While there are certainly arguments to be made for the positive of it, but what Kim Jong-un, for example, has realized, him having the bomb has made it essentially impossible for the United States to really do anything against him. Now, obviously, China does not like the idea of North Korea having a nuclear weapon. And so China has begun to a little bit distance themselves from Kim Jong-un a little bit. But, obviously then there's that danger of having a very, paranoid and, I guess in general, just crazy person having access to using the bombs in countries that don't operate in the way that, like, Britain or the United States, countries like that operate, in which one person does not have access to launching a nuclear weapon. It takes multiple people and multiple levels in the chain of command in order to launch a nuclear weapon in these countries. Now, if you can guarantee that that is the situation for all nations around the world, then I think nations having bombs would not be a bad idea, because it prevents them from really getting bullied. And which is why Kim Jong-un has developed a nuclear bomb, because it gives him a key weapon on the table and in world politics, even though his country is extremely poor. Cold War arsenals are reduced. That would certainly help if the amount is reduced. However, I feel like if you reduce it too much to where we don't have enough nuclear weapons to destroy the world, if we were ever to get below that number, I feel like then the idea of mutually assured destruction goes away, and then people become more willing to use the nuke because they know, hey, there aren't enough nukes around in the world to destroy the world. That means we can use our nukes now. Right? That's just something that would probably be an issue. Technology races are slowed or stabilized. There's a back and forth there, because, for instance, I guess the race to the moon saw rapid technological innovation when the Soviets and the United States were competing on racing to the moon. And despite the Soviets really having the lead and getting stuff up into space first, but the United States being the first ones to the moon, right? We saw these massive jumps in technology, which were very beneficial. GPS, that was first, I think, an invention by the military through war, but then now it is a staple of the public sector. You have GPS on your phone. So, I feel like technology races are good for society. Nations pledge to not strike unless attacked. Well, I feel like that's just a no-brainer. Oh, I don't have anything else to say about that one.
How many countries get the bomb, or scaling back Cold War arsenals, or stabilizing technology races, or pledging to never be the first one to strike. Such ideas have often resulted in signed treaties, some of which have held for decades. Some are at risk of expiring, and some just need a final push to become activated. By being steadfast in these efforts and not walking away from diplomatic achievements, we can continue the work of ensuring that this nightmare simulation never becomes a reality.
Huh. Wait, what the fuck? I kind of want to watch this. I'm gonna have to look at that video. Great video by Neil Halloran. Wow. It was different than what I thought it was going to be. So I was initially thinking that it was going to be kind of like that website that lets you use Google Maps and like drop a nuke anywhere in the world, and you get to see the radius of the explosion, right? With different, I guess, power, different kilotons that are in this specific nuke, and see what it's like, whatever. Huh. Wow. But no, it was just one nuke, what is seen as probably the above average payload of a modern nuclear weapon. Pretty insightful. I think I personally would have preferred a much more in-depth video, like kind of what he did with now maybe there were certain time constraints and he couldn't do it. And also probably maybe budget issues, but I would have preferred that him going into depth on this kind of concept in the same way that he did that the fallout of World War II. That would be really interesting. And also I don't know if he's done it, but I'd be interested in a fallout of World War I video. If he has made it, then I'm probably going to check it out. If he hasn't, I want him to make it because he does great quality on his channel. But yeah, that was a simulation of a nuclear blast in a major city. I have nothing else to add to the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.